Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Hanamura, and I have come here from the Internet Archive. So I'm wondering, how many of you have ever used archive.org? That's pretty good. How many of you used the Wayback Machine? How many of you have played like a vintage game in our gaming, in emulation? How many of you ever read a book on archive.org? Oh, so most people think of us as the home of the Wayback Machine, which we are, but we do many other things, including quite a bit of work in the decentralized web. And I was having dinner with a guy named Trent McConaughey from Ocean Protocol, and he was saying that he is an OG of the crypto space. But in our minds, Trent is not an OG. He's kind of an MG, he's like middle G. But I am from Oakland, California, and I think I am an OG. Now, do you know what OG stands for? Who knows what OG stands for? Oh, okay, you in the orange, what is it?
Original gangster.
That is right. I am an original gangsta from Oakland. Oh, in fact, this is my proudest moment. I got to meet at DevCon Osaka the Dogecoin dog. That's how old I am. I am older than the Dogecoin dog, who actually just died last year, very sadly. His name was Kabocha. And I love Kabocha. And thank you, Vitalik, for allowing me to meet my hero. But I want to tell you a little bit about how the Internet Archive came to be in the decentralized space. And I want to hear from you why you are in the decentralized space, because I think that's really important. So, okay, go back to 2015. I think this was, 2015. And the 5 largest funders, the 5 largest philanthropies, foundations in America said, okay, we're going to pool all of our money and we're going to create a moonshot for the internet. And they invited different people to come and present their ideas, including my founder, Brewster Kahle. And I always work with Brewster on what he talks about. And I'm pretty sure they thought he was going to talk about the Library of Alexandria for the digital age. And I said, Brewster, that is not a moonshot. Give me a real moonshot. And he said, okay, well, clearly the web that we're using is failing us. It's not private, it's not secure, it monetizes you. And he said, I think that we can build something better. And I said, well, that is a bold statement, because in the front row, when you give the speech, it will be Tim Berners-Lee, who made that World Wide Web. And he set out this kind of vision of a decentralized web. At first, we were calling it the distributed web, but we settled on decentralized web back in 2015. And he said this web should be private, it should be secure, it should be locked open for good, but it should still be fun. And as I was watching your presentation, I realized Ethereum has achieved much of that. It is private, it's secure, it's always going, it's pretty fun oftentimes. And this is how much of an OG we are. In 2014, I attended an SF Bitcoin meetup in the lobby of the Internet Archive. And the speaker that night was a very young, kind of skinny guy named Vitalik Buterin. And Vitalik announced that he was creating something called Ethereum. And we said, well, what is this thing? And he said, oh, it's kind of smart contracts, and he's eating pizza. And we had known Vitalik for quite a while because the Internet Archive has always been about experimentation. So we, in the early days, could have been paid in Bitcoin. Oh, woe is me that I did not take that. And we convinced the restaurant next door, the Japanese restaurant, to be paid in Bitcoin. So every day, Brewster would go and he'd order his chicken teriyaki bento and he would pay in Bitcoin. And that restaurant owner is now, of course, a Bitcoin millionaire investor in Hong Kong. So we've been around for a long time, but for us, and that first year that we took Bitcoin donations, we got 12,000 Bitcoins in donations. Oh, we should have really kept it in Bitcoin. But our board said, oh no, that's way too dangerous. You must sell it. And you know how much we sold it for? $12,000. $1 per Bitcoin back then. We could have been running the Internet Archive forever if we had just held on to that Bitcoin. But the point was never to make a lot of money. I don't know if it's to make a lot of money for you. The point was to try something new, to try and make something better. And so in 2016, Brewster said, Wendy, I think you should put together something called the Decentralized Web Summit. And he said, yeah, we'll just get all of the people who are working on this stuff together for the first time. And can you do that for me? And I said, well, I don't know anything about this field, but if you give me someone smart, we can do this. And so a young guy who was working in a small industry and I, with great hubris, great ego, we decided we would pick the 80 most important people at that time working in this field. And we got some right, we got some wrong. There was a young Vlad Zamfir. There was Gavin Wood and his team came. Stephen Thomas of Coil. There was Juan Benet. There was Trent McConaughey of Ocean, but back then, Big Chain Data. There were the nonprofit folks like the creator of DAT, Max Ogden. There was a young Faraz, whose name is very hard to pronounce, but he did web torrents. And they were the young Turks. But then there were the OGs there, and then there were the super OGs. So the super OGs were Tim Berners-Lee and Vint Cerf, creator and father of the internet, and Brewster, and Van Jacobson, HTTP protocol. And the OGs there were Bram Cohen and Zuko Wilcox, Brian Warner, Tahoe Laughs. And you guys are like the NGs. You're like the new gangstas, honestly. So why do I tell you all this history? Because since 2016, the Internet Archive has seen as part of its mission to gather the best decentralized technologists in the world together. And we have no horse in the game. We don't care if you're working on Ethereum or if you're working on Coil or if you're working for DAppCon and Gnosis, or if you are doing much more fundamental peer-to-peer stack stuff. We work with people who decentralize storage, decentralize transport, decentralize apps, decentralized identity. They all come because we believe that someday we are going to build that completely decentralized stack, and that it will be really important for you to know the people who work in decentralized storage or who work in decentralized identity. Because if we're ever going to achieve this huge vision, you're going to have to know each other. And it's really important. Do you know why? Because not only is the web that we know betraying us, the internet that we know is splintering. The Internet Archive has one of the largest libraries of data in the world. Second, honestly, only to Google in the digitized form. But there are now huge swaths of the world that we cannot reach. China, many parts of India, parts of Turkey. They got really mad at us when we kept up their, Turkish journalists who had been banned. Hell, much of America will soon be cut off from us, I'm sure. Parts of us are disappearing from the web. We're splintering. The internet that we know is splintering. And one of the only solutions to this is to have peer-to-peer delivery on every single level of the stack. That's why we invest in it. No one will see us if we can't perfect some of these technologies. But how do you know you want to work with the Internet Archive? So this is my colleague since 2019, Mai Ishikawa-Sutton. And we said, okay, how do you know you really want to be part of this gang of ours? Well, you have to believe in our principles. And I'm going to turn it over to Mai because she was one of the architects of the DWeb principles.
Hello, everybody. So in 2019, after our first DWeb camp, we realized that we needed some sort of vision document for the DWeb movement. We knew that we were against this splintering of the internet, against big tech taking over swaths of the infrastructure of the web that we know and love. So I worked with a colleague, John Connor Ryan, who used to work closely with Deutsche Telekom, used to work at Google X, and so as a digital rights organizer that used to work at EFF, we kind of came from very different backgrounds, but we found that we were able to talk to the whole DWeb community and come up with this document called the DWeb Principles. The 5 overarching categories: technology for human agency. We stand for technology that enables the primacy of people as beneficiaries of the technology by upholding their security, privacy, and self-determination. We urge coexistence and interoperability and discourage walled gardens. So that's just a sample of this first one. We have. Oh, okay. Can I hold it together? And then so we have distributed benefits, mutual respect, humanity, and ecological awareness. And in developing these principles, we were able to signal what we were about. And this has been a really important document, essentially to show who is part of this DWeb, who aligns with us, who doesn't align with us. And in developing this, we actually worked with a lot of as Wendy said, OGs and maybe middle Gs of the internet. So for instance, Jay Graber, the CEO of Blue Sky, who's a friend of mine, gave us a ton of comments actually on this document. So she has her fingerprints all over it. Aya Miyaguchi was also very instrumental in helping us shape this document. Of course, all of us, Ray McKelvey, who used to work on DAT, who worked on Ditto. And so we came up with this document, and it's actually, and now this endorsement list is just growing more and more. And so this is really, if you want to learn more about what we are about at our core, please read our DWeb principles at getdweb.net/principles.
So you're probably wondering, what are we doing here in Berlin? Well, we are here to issue an invitation to you. If you could go to our website, there's 2 invitations.
Do you want me to show the video or maybe?
Sure. Hang on one second though. So, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe 2018, Brewster said to me, you know, Wendy, I think what we need to do is create a third path. You've got your get rich quick guys, you've got your academics, but what if you want to use technology to make the world a better place? You don't have to do that your whole career, but maybe you have unique skills and you want to find other people who can help you create code that will really make the world better. Where do you find those people? Where do you find support? Where do you find allies? He said, that's the third path we should create. And I think we should make it kind of like Chaos Computer Camp meets Burning Man. And he said, could you do that? I said, yeah, I think I could do that. And so this is what we created, and it is called DWeb Camp. So take a look.
DWeb Camp brings together all the dreamers. I think it's one of the best places I've ever been for finding people who not only have the political ideas and the political imagination to look at what a next world would be, but also people who've really done the reading. They're coming having worked on the technology and having read the books and having thought about the different philosophies behind it. It's really a special place.
The DWeb Camp is a convening of people who are interested in all kinds of decentralized technologies to help create the next generation of the internet, which will be much more decentralized than the current one.
And so fundamentally, I think the idea here is to actually be using the decentralized web to protect civil liberties and to protect human rights. You know, I think that has the extra advantage of really making it clear why this technology is so important at a moment in time where it really is critical for the future of this technology that that message gets out to policymakers.
My impression is these are people who care. They want to contribute to a future worth living in, a future that's in harmony with nature, which is wonderful while we're meeting out here.
So we are leaving Northern California and coming to Altahole. Yeah, Altahole. About 1 hour, 1.5 hours perhaps from right here, from Berlin. And we come to learn because nobody does outside events and tech camps like the Germans, quite frankly. And we've come here to make partners, and some of our partners are in the room. Liji, will you stand up? Does everyone know Liji? Seabase, Ethereum, Department of Decentralization. We've come to learn how you do it and to learn new ways and to try and bridge the best coders, the best policy people of North America, South America, with the folks who are here. And we think that we can do this on this ground and look at the root systems. I love that Martin's incredible document about funding, but the root systems that underlie all of us. Let's go back to our roots. Let's think about how we sustain those roots. Let's spread those roots. And we're going to start by co-creating this camp because we want to do it differently in this place. And we're going to do that this Saturday at Seabase, thanks to our friends at Seabase. So during the day, there will be an unconference, there will be breakout groups. What are the topics that you care about? What would bring you to this? What are the activities? How can you contribute? What ideas would you have? I mean, Liji alone has 25 ideas, honestly. You know, roots music, right? The roots in, like, you can feel it in nature, and tea tents, but also, of course, deep technological and social discussion. So, Mai, do you want to talk about maybe some of the areas of discussion that we will have at camp?
Sure. So some of the conversations we've been having were actually in Amsterdam last week, meeting with various organizations, kind of trying to understand the European context, the both the technological context, the reality of many organizations coming to grips with AI, to again the political and regulatory context of developing new technologies in the EU, and so. We have a couple tracks that are bubbling up to the surface, and we're looking for curators and stewards to uh, host these conversations at DWeb Camp. One is public AI. So how do we make use of publicly available cultural and civic data to make the best use of those data sets, and also make tools that are actually for the public interest, and inviting various organizations that are thinking about this. One of our team members, Tommy, is really passionate about the Fediverse and open social web. So how do we think about bridging the AT protocol with the Fediverse and all the other open social networks? And how do they learn from each other? How do we bridge them, make them interoperable? And another one is one that I'm personally passionate about, and I think is also related to what Martin was talking about with sustaining the digital infrastructure builders and maintainers, is how do we think about sustaining the funding for developers, the critical people who build, oh, I'm sorry, who build and again maintain the code that we rely on. And I believe that there's much to learn from the social solidarity economy, cooperatives, collective organizations, to think about how do we make funding flow between each other and pay attention to the stewards of the technologies that we rely on. Another one is privacy and the anti-authoritarian stack. How do we listen to people who are on the ground fighting the good fight, and also thinking about how we resist big tech's complicity with big powerful players wherever you are in the world. I'm missing more.
Well, we'll definitely have some of the most interesting P2P open source local first builders in the world there. There's in Berlin, the founder of Willow, perhaps you know him. He's doing a not append only kind of base layer that would allow you to delete not only an item but the metadata for that item. You can imagine why that's so important. You know, maybe you and I are working in America as sanctuary providers to undocumented immigrants, and we hear that ICE is coming, and ICE is going to definitely take your server and my server. Well, we want to get rid of that, and we want to get rid of all traces of that. This new Willow protocol would allow you to do that because it's not append-only log. You can get rid of things pretty much forever and traces of it. But, you know, up the stack, people from Berlin and Peter Panda and other groups, and some of the very finest local first developers are coming from Brazil and from Buenos Aires and from California and Vancouver. So a chance to really bring the best minds together. So much more and so much fun, because as Brewster said, it has to be fun or people will not come, people will not stay, people will not volunteer and give their heart. So 2 invitations. Come to Seabase. I think there's 8 tickets left, but if you do something special.
If you email us at dweb@archive.org, we will get you on the list. We're expecting, even though we are sold out, always 10 to 20% don't show up. So, and there is a train strike this weekend. So hopefully that doesn't impact us too much. So in the morning, we are going to be doing some intros and breakout groups. So a little bit more of the offering. So thinking about the children's and family program, the music program, infrastructure, transportation. We want your ideas to make camp a beautiful, fun experience. The afternoon will be an unconference where we will elevate the ideas, your ideas, and break out into groups to discuss the kinds of things that we want to surface at DWeb Camp this year. How do we encourage you to use DWeb Camp as a meeting place for your teams and your ideas to get feedback, find partners, find collaborators? And so really this is kind of a starting point for that to happen in July. And in the evening, Wendy will be in a fireside chat with Internet Archive founder and digital librarian Brewster Kale. We'll talk about the vision of DWeb Camp, the DWeb movement, and Internet Archive Europe, which has reopened its office in Amsterdam last year, and talk about some of the goals and missions of Internet Archive Europe.
I guess I just want to end by doing 2 things. I want to introduce you to our team, our magnificent team who have come from all over the world. Beth McCarthy, Danny Chavin, Kevin Nguyen, and actually Lishi is very much a part of this team, Mai and myself. If you have any questions, you want to volunteer, you have an idea, no idea is too wild, please come and share your ideas. So come this Saturday to Seabase. And then in July 8th through 12th, come to Alto Hole. It's only an hour and a half away, and it's going to be quite a beautiful thing in nature. And you can make it more beautiful. You can make it more interesting. I think the homepage of the dwebcamp.org site has better shots. So Tim Berners-Lee always comes. He's lots of fun. In any case, if you have any questions, come up to us. And I do have one last closing question for any of you. Why are you doing this work? You could probably be doing any kind of work, but why? You could just talk loud. Yeah.
Sure. I'm not too quiet, but well, I mean, the way I entered was different, but at this point, and soon after I entered the ecosystem, it was this realization that the internet and, well, I mean, it was first finance, but the internet as public infrastructure, because it's definitely not right now.
Others. What is this, a Thursday night? Why are you here on a Thursday night? I know this is a nice space and they give good free food, but
Yeah, I'm happy to go next.
Yeah.
Ben used to be a colleague in but I work for SAFE, which is used to be part of Gnosis, and yeah, here used to contribute to Google now contribute to this, and partly the reason is there is a lot of censorship, and contributing to anything that leads to less censorship, especially in censoring capital, money, seems like a better thing to do than contribute to the centralized web.
Oh, I think.
I don't want to say anything. Anyone else?
Did you want to say something, Dirk?
No.
No?
So yeah, for me, it always was about exciting tech. So open source is of course amazing. It opens up a lot of possibilities. And for me, as a youngster, I started out using Nixus, which is also somewhat decentralized, open source. And through Nixus, I also ended up in crypto and working on exciting technologies in this space. For example, a lot in formal verification, which is used so much more in crypto because of the emphasis on its security and everything. And so it is just the perfect place to cultivate amazing research and open source for everyone.
After, okay. So for me, like the main point why I started doing like development in blockchain is you cannot do a lot of things with like traditional financial instruments. For example, there is no way to like create like a financial gambling application, for example, with traditional finance easily. You have to get like so many licenses and stuff. With blockchain, like you just need to write like a smart contract and then connect a web application and done. So it like kind of is gate capped in traditional instruments, whilst blockchain is not. So that's the reason.
Yeah, so I see the potential in Ethereum to be something good, and also it could be something bad. And if I don't work that it becomes something good, then it's a problem.
I think it's very, very critical that that there's always ways to directly interact without using any algorithms. And more, I think, on the internet, we see how much algorithms dominate our experience, whether that's with other humans, whether that's with information, whatever we're doing online. And so making sure that there's always going to be ways to interact without any algorithm is very important.
I feel like it's an interesting Venn diagram of like technology nerds and then people who really care about being human and other humans, and also just novelty and trying to rethink our systems, how society works, and all these things kind of combined in people. That's just really fun people to be around who are like curious and like to think about the future in positive some ways. Those are things I perceive in these kind of communities.
Anyone in the front? I think I saw Liji with his hand up.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think we need some tools to stand up against the big corporations, because otherwise you might up in a big dystopia. And it's kind of also like a spiritual calling somehow, like with this David versus Goliath. And I think Ethereum could also be part like of the steel beat that gets shown. But it could also fall in the hands of Goliath. So what Dirk was saying, basically, the right people have to use the tools also. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add that like the people generally, like the people who are gravitated towards these technologies and open source and decentralization, I think are just the coolest people I've ever met and ever worked with. So I think the vibes, the energy of building this this more brighter future and not just following what corporations and the system is telling us to do. And I think a lot of people tend to work on these open source projects in their free time. That shows that, you know, it's something more meaningful for them to do versus their daytime job that is, you know, often like a boring corporate job.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Oh.
Do you want to say why you do this work, Mai?
Why do I do this work? Well, I used to work at EFF. I would say I'm also one of the first generations of digital natives. I grew up with the internet in my home. And I think realizing that it could be captured and it could go the wrong way really inspired me to join EFF, fight copyright and fight for users, fight for free and open source code, for the Creative Commons, and realizing that we actually can't just fight all of these policy battles because it just felt like putting out fires locally in the United States and California, but also in these international policy agreements. The big tech companies were always winning. And so I kind of came into DWeb actually when I was working at the Community Network Project in Oakland. And when Wendy was working on DWeb Camp in 2019, the very first camp, I said, that's so cool. I love that power is being discussed at all layers of the network stack. And we're thinking about this holistically. We can't do this without thinking about how open source developers are relying on corporate captured ISPs. We can't deal with social networks being captured by big tech. And so the fact that we kind of operate and bring together people who are thinking about this in different layers, but then have such an open mind and thinking about how we do things differently really has kept me working on this for now this last 7 years. And also with Mikola too, the people. Just the fact that I get to work with all these lovely people, but the people who come to DWeb Camp, I just have the best conversations at DWeb Camp, and I always look forward to it because I just don't get to have these crazy philosophical conversations at the same time, just talking about what we'd like to cook at home to all kinds of things. So I've been to lots of tech conferences. It kind of is a tech conference outside, but it just feels really special and different. And I just feel really lucky to be able to be one of the core organizers of this, and also just meet new people and see all these new ideas and figure out how we can support all of these interesting, creative, groundbreaking ideas year to year.
Thanks, Mai.
How about you?
How about me? So each one of you has a superpower. Maybe you know what it is. Maybe you're still trying to define it. My superpower is that I am a storyteller for change. And I was telling my stories for American media, very progressive media, and I thought, you know what? I could have more impact because San Francisco is not the media capital of the world, it is the tech capital of the world. But I could not work for the man. And so that left about 4 nonprofit tech companies I could work for. And I went to the Internet Archive and they saw that I could have value. And seriously, in my first 3 months there, I could not follow what they were talking about. I'm constantly Googling or whatever, searching under my desk, what is a Hadoop cluster? But we can have value and we can choose where to put that value. And 2 years ago, I guess I should share, my husband had cancer, terminal cancer. And so I left my job at the Internet Archive and I retired. And when I came out of that period, I said, okay, I have to have a new mantra determining what I do. And this is my mantra. I will only work with people I love on projects I care about. I'm very privileged to be able to make that choice. And these are people I love, and this is a project I care about, and I do it 100% as a volunteer because I still have that urge to make the world a better place with the skills that I have. And I challenge each of you to do that a little bit. You can make money, you can do whatever you want, launch a company, but use your skills, your superpower to make this place better. We all need to. So come join us, come talk to us. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure to see you and I look forward to meeting you.